Okay. There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. So we're ready. We're ready to get started.
You're still paused on recording.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So good evening and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm so excited. I have to tell you, I am so excited to have Ruth Eichler here. Um, First, I'll tell you a little bit about her. Um, Ruth is a psychotherapist in private practice who's developed and facilitated hundreds of groups for personal and spiritual growth throughout the United States, Germany, and Russia. A visionary and community builder, she has guided the development of retreat and holistic healing centers, forming councils that share leadership through consensus. For many years, she and her husband stewarded the Earth Song Peace Sound Chamber while living on a nature sanctuary. Ruth has a lifelong passion for nurturing both depth and zest for life. Her approach integrates insights from diverse traditions, believing that all life, from cellular to planetary, moves inherently toward wholeness. She devotes her energies to bringing healing and integration to individuals, groups, and planet Earth. So beautifully aligned with, I think, probably with everyone who's listening. Um, and the reason I'm so excited to have you here, Ruth, is because I read your book on the recommendation of Heather Mendel, and I was just blown away by it. And I know I've told you this. I'm fangirling about this because I've told you a couple of times, if I had the strength and ability to write a book, which I don't, this is the book I would write. It's so aligned for these times, right? For this transition that we're going through, and it creates such a beautiful narrative, in integrating science and the divine feminine and personal experience and ancient wisdom traditions. It's just so beautifully woven together, um, and I found it just uplifting as a reminder that we're going through this time collectively and individually, right? But we're here. Um, we chose to be here at this time, and we're doing this together with intention and bringing in something really great. So thank you for agreeing to be here with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can show us what you got.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Judy, for inviting me. It's been just a delight to get to know you a little bit, and I hope we have a lot more connections. And thank all of the people who are on here today. And I appreciate this opportunity, and it's a real honor. So I'm going to share my screen now for a few PowerPoints. So this all started in 2010. I had this amazing opportunity to be invited by a dear friend to join 12 women who went to Egypt on a sacred mission. We were there to do ceremony at sacred sites and in Egypt because to help rebalance masculine and feminine energies. And the Maori grandmothers had initially commissioned one of their lineage holders to go around the world to many different sacred sites to do this kind of ceremony to rebalance masculine and feminine energies. And the person that they chose to do this died before the only one that there was only one that was left to be completed, and that one was Egypt. So one of the women who had been on several of those adventures decided to take us to Egypt. And so it's been an amazing journey that has reverberated through my life ever since then. So it really revealed something extraordinary that is happening. And there were many, many experiences, of course, when we were there. But one that really stands out in my mind is when we were in the Great Pyramid before dawn in the King's Chamber. I had an experience that felt like, well, what it reminded me of is my favorite movie of all time, The Dark Crystal, in which at the end of that movie, diverse beings come together and they merge into beings of light. And that's what that experience felt like. And it was mind-blowing and has altered my life in many ways. So we're all part of this. It's all part of a great awakening that we're in now. This is an image of one of the women who was part of our group in the Great Pyramid. And if you can see, there are orbs of light that surround her that we could not see with our visible eyes. And yet it was just an example that we're not alone in this and that we are joined in this amazing journey at this time. So the person who invited me was Leslie Carmack, and there she is, and we're in front of the Great Pyramid. And after we came home, Leslie and I knew that we had to write the book, the Radiant Awakening book. So it has shaped my life and continues to reverberate through my life. So well, first of all, how many of you have had experiences recently where you feel like the world isn't what I thought it was? The world is changing, something is happening, and it's not in your imagination. The world is changing, and we're in times of enormous, enormous change. So, um, one of the images for me is that like Russian nesting dolls. And if you can imagine that you are one of these tiny dolls, and these dolls then are stacked one upon the other. And if you're this tiny doll and all you can see is the walls around you, then you think that that is your world. And that's like our consciousness. And then suddenly, if you have the opportunity to move into one of the bigger dolls, then it's like your whole world has expanded. Your consciousness has expanded. And once you start that trajectory of moving into one of these bigger dolls of bigger awareness, then it's like you can never forget it because you always know that there's something possible to move forward to, and that there's an expanded awareness that is beyond. So, uh, I'm whoops, one more thing. If we only watch the news, we might miss what's really happening. Millions of people are awakening everywhere. People are asking deeper questions, seeking meaning beyond material success, feeling called to something greater than themselves. As an astrologer for decades, I can tell you we are witnessing astrological alignments that have not been seen for thousands of years. Cosmic events that mirror this unprecedented acceleration of consciousness. As we navigate this transformation, those clinging to the old power structures create turbulence and chaos. We can see it every day. But here's what we can do. We become ever more conscious of what we project into the world. Fear breeds fear. But if we choose to project and to feel and to experience joy and peace and harmony, then we literally accelerate consciousness itself and become part of that collective movement. And we become part of the solution. I just added this one today because it's a personal example. My husband and I went to a Chinese lantern festival at a zoo recently, and all of the animals, it was night, and all the animals were inside except this one snowy owl. And this snowy owl just seemed to peer into my eyes. And what this snowy owl tells me, it's time to also be able to look into the dark into those shadow parts of ourselves. And so for me, this is just one example of this shift in consciousness, that I have a part of myself that I call the over accommodator. And I've worked with this part of myself at various times throughout my life in various ways. But after this snowy owl experience, it really catalyzed me to look deeper, 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 and into the origins of where that came from, and that goes beyond this lifetime. But by peering into that shadow, then when we know something, then it gives us the opportunity to let it dissolve and to move beyond it. So just wanted to add that one. So our Egypt experience awakened something that had been calling us for years, the sacred feminine. She's been rising in humanity's consciousness, asking us to remember what we've forgotten. The sacred feminine is integral to humanity's spiritual evolution. For thousands of years, masculine energies, what we might call the patriarchy, have dominated our world. But now the sacred feminine is rising, not to replace, but to balance. This isn't about gender. Men and women alike can embody these qualities of nurturing, intuition, compassion, and creative power. The sacred feminine is not found in books or theories. She's experienced. She's that moment when you trust your intuition over logic, when you choose collaboration over competition, when you see the sacred in nature, in others, and in yourself. She's the creative force that births new life, whether that's a child, an idea, or a transformed world. So the sacred feminine has many different faces from all cultures in the world. There are the ones that are especially associated with compassion, that ability to move through suffering, to be to unconditional love through all kinds of suffering. So you might think of Mary or the Black Madonna in the Christian tradition, or Kuan Yin in Asian cultures. Then there are the fierce ones. These are the ones that protect what is sacred. So the one on the left is an image of Sekhmet, but when we were in Egypt, we were in a small temple in which there was a statue of Sekhmet, and she's a lion, and she's very fierce, and we could feel the power of her in that little temple as she says, enough is enough, and only justice, and so fight protecting for justice. Then the one on the right is an art piece that was done by one of my friends. And this is Kali from the Hindu tradition. And you probably have seen images of Kali from sacred texts. But I love this one. She has X-Acto knives around her waist, and she's wearing tennis shoes. And some of you may remember that years ago, people wore little bracelets that were beads that said WWJD. What would Jesus do? Well, this one, you can't quite see it in this image. She has a bracelet that says WWKD. So then there's Sophia. She's wisdom. And King Solomon said that she was a radiant light that came from everlasting light, and that she never changed, and yet she was always there for the transformation and for the movement. And as I said, they come from every culture in the world, and I have zillions of these images. But here are two of them. Corn Woman is a Cherokee from the Cherokee tradition in the in America. And the Aztec moon goddess is from Mexico. And then, so before we leave them, I just wanted to take a moment of pause for each of you, because I know that many of you have also had experiences with the sacred feminine, whether It is with a beloved figure from your own religion or from your own tradition, or perhaps it's just that feeling that something is happening, something is moving within our awareness and our consciousness that brings us closer to a feeling that we're all in this together. It is not about us and them. This is about we are unified as a whole, and the sacred feminine is so much a part of that. So we are not alone. Um, as our consciousness expands, we're discovering a profound truth that we are not alone, not just in the cosmic sense, but right here, right this moment, this very moment of transformation. Millions of people are awakening together in meditation circles, in communities of healing, in movements for justice. Some gather quietly for peace. Others take to the streets with fierce love for our planet. Just this July, over 5 million people joined in the joyful No King celebrations in the United States, and there were many more around the world who participated in that as well. There were over 250 organizations that instigated and collaborated on that particular protest. It was done by not by top-down power, but by grassroots people rising up, which is also part of this consciousness revolution. And this is what collective consciousness looks like. And but it's not only our support from not from other human beings, of which there are millions around the world. We may not see them, but they are there. But our support extends far beyond this to as we open to higher frequencies, we become aware of other intelligences, angelic presences, galactic families, beings of light who've been waiting for humanity to remember we're part of a vast, interconnected cosmos. And just this year, while I was facilitating a workshop on Lake Michigan, the universe offered its own confirmation. As the sun set, this extraordinary image appeared in the sky, as if the cosmos itself was saying, yes, you're seen. Yes, you are supported. No, you are not alone. We are part of an extraordinary community. The isolation many people have felt is part of the old paradigm dissolving. And the old paradigm is dissolving. And it's not always visible to our daily eyes, but it is. And we are awakening together. And I would like to just take a moment to pause as you sense palpably the presence of all of you who are on this call today, as you feel that joining of our collective community rising in consciousness together. I know that I participate in several different groups that from around the world, and that whenever I'm on these groups, some of them are meditation groups, some of them are a different orientation in terms of justice and so forth. But I can always feel this palpable connection. It's just amazing. We don't have to be sitting side by side with someone to feel that or to know that. So that's actually what my presentation was, Judy.
Thank you so much. I let me just I I love everything about what you're saying, and I we had talked about this before. I wanted to thank you for bringing up the dark crystal That, I don't know if anybody listening, or has seen The Dark Crystal, because it came out in like the 80s, right? Was it the 80s or 90s?
It was back in the 80s, actually.
Yeah. And so unusual for it's a Muppet movie, it's puppets, right?
Oh,
But deep spiritual theme,
mm,
right? Of reintegrating
mm,
um and coming into our fullness as spiritual beings. I I I saw it right away, right? I tried to show the movie to my kids and it freaked them out. So, but if you haven't seen The Dark Crystal, you should see The Dark Crystal through the lens of, what's going on right now. Because I really think that that's what we're living,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
We're moving out of the paradigm of separation, of, this belief in separation that we're, the us versus them, as you said. Um, into unity consciousness. So
Since
yeah,
you brought up the Dark Crystal, when I saw that movie, I was still at that time, long before I was a therapist, I was a high school teacher, and I had to show that movie to my students. And and so then I have seen that movie probably 80 or 90 times because I showed it to every group that I had then on because it's such a metaphor and for what is happening. Uh,
yeah, yeah. It's really great. I want to just let people know, if you have questions, three ways to ask questions. You can type them in the chat, or you can type them in there's a little button down there that says Q&A, or if you want, you can raise your hand and speak with Ruth directly. Um,
I
if you,
saw a I saw something pop up from Wanda
well,
Blumenfeld.
I saw one too, but then sometimes people do it by mistake.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and
here's
I
another one, raised hand.
oh good, okay. They go to Jerry, I think.
Yeah. Hi, Ruth.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Jerry. Where,
Okay.
where do you
I
live?
want to say that I really appreciate your message, and I appreciate it because I've been following the changes that are going on that you're talking about. And therefore I measure the energies that are going on, and they are going on in astronomical levels. And as a result, I applaud you for making the statements that you're making. Uh, I just see it because I measure it and follow it, but I don't have a question. I just say thank you for bringing all the messages out into the open. I see it from a different perspective, but I see the need for all the things that you're saying and the balancing. And I like the way you state the feminine energy is there for balancing the masculine. And
Hmm.
it's a wonderful way to make that statement. So thank
Yeah,
you. And
Jerry,
I'll,
I thought of you when she was talking about um uh, one of the importance of really monitoring the energy that we're putting out, right? And because I know you are measuring daily, right? You're measuring sort of the
yeah,
uh, vibration level of the planet and of individuals, and I know you're seeing some really amazing things. And it's just such a feedback loop, right? That what we're putting out is really affecting the whole. And um, and of course, Jerry works with affirmations, just to consciously choose
Hmm.
what vibration you're going to put out, I think is part of the new paradigm, right? It's very empowered.
yeah, it really is very powerful. Yeah, the levels are unbelievable right now, and they've been increasing. Yeah, back in December 2024, I thought, oh, these levels are so high right now, but they've continued to rise, continue to go up, and they're going up exponentially. And in the past month, that exponential rising is even more. So it's just like a straight line up at this point in time. So, but that's
Thank
what's happening.
Thank you, Jerry. I would love to see your research on all of that too. And I didn't include it in this talk, but we know that the earth itself is part of this evolution of consciousness, that the earth itself is conscious and that its consciousness is it's paralleling, it's in conjunction with us
Yeah,
at
we're
the same
seeing
time.
that same energy happening on the Earth and
Mhm.
also on a galactic basis.
Yes, yes.
So it's amazing what is in fact happening. It's amazing what we're observing. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks, Jerry. Um, yeah, one of the things that when you mentioned assistance from the non-physical realms, I that's one of my favorite things to talk about because I think it's so heartening to know how resourced we are, right? How many spiritual resources we have. And I was I'll just say I was talking to the nature spirits the other day, and I was reminded, it's not just humanity that's evolving,
you. Mhm.
right?
Right.
All of the beings within who reside within the earth are evolving. The animals are evolving, the nature spirits are evolving, the planet herself is evolving, right? We're all part of this ecosystem that's evolving together. And um, it makes me happy to think, and of course the ascended masters and the angelic realms and off-planet beings, I think that are really here to help. Uh,
Mhm.
it just makes me think that um, I mean, I have my doubts every once in a while. This is going to be successful, right? I was sure that it was going to be successful, and then I think it was in 2010 I started having my doubts. But I'm kind of back to thinking, okay, it's a wild ride, but I think we're going to do it. Is that your impression as well?
Yeah, yes, yes. It's a wild ride. And we still have choice. I mean, that choice to really be what I said, to really be aware of what we're putting out to the world. And that literally makes a difference in the energies that exist. I did see a question from Lynn Specht that what are the astrological alignments that are happening for the first time in thousands of years?
Yeah.
Um, so I'll just very briefly go into that. We don't really have time for all of that, but one of the things that's happening, so I'll just use astrology language here for just a moment. So one of the things is that Saturn and Neptune come together every so many years. Neptune takes about 150 years to go around the zodiac. Saturn takes about 29 years. So, but occasionally they come together in the sky. But right now, and next February, they will be exact, but they're already very, very close. They're coming into the sign of Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiac. This is the one that has not happened for well over thousands of years. And so that just in and of itself, Saturn represents about, well, Neptune is about the dreams and the vision. It can also be confusion, but it's about the dreams and the vision, and Saturn is about how you manifest that. So it's an amazing um, linkage to me, but being at 0 degrees of Aries means that this is a huge, huge new beginning. So that's just one thing. But then there are also the 7 outer planets are all moving into new signs. And these new signs are all about fire and air. And so they're very, very fast moving, very fast moving, and a lot about consciousness and also technological things that are happening too. But then also, briefly, Pluto, one of my favorite planets, takes about 248 years to go around the zodiac. So it only comes back every 248, 250 years to the same place. So it's just moved into the sign of Aquarius. And when you go back through history, even though Pluto was not discovered at that time, when you go back through history, every time that Pluto entered the sign of Aquarius, it was the people rising up And so the last time it happened in the world, we had the American Revolution, in which we became a constitutional United States, well, the beginning of the United States. It was the French Revolution, in which the monarchy was toppled and it was the people, and it became a republic. So every time, so Pluto going into Aquarius at this time is also an it's just everything coming together. But it was a Saturn and Neptune that hasn't actually and going into 0 degrees of Aries. So that's enough astrologies for the moment.
Oh, I don't know. I love it. I had seen I can't remember the name of the documentary about with that Richard Tarnas had done.
Mhm. I
Uh,
saw that. We saw that.
it wasn't it called oh, I can't remember what it was called.
It was about Uranus and Pluto.
Yeah, and it was about that kind of revolutionary, and they talked about the uh, planetary alignments that are very similar to the 60s, right?
Mhm.
The revolution times of the 60s as well.
Yeah.
So there seem to be
Yeah.
so many converging cycles
But I
here.
don't like to include too much astrologies, the language for people who are not familiar with it.
Yeah, thank you, because I'm not, but I'm so fascinated by it. It's just
It's
one of the many cycles, and I think Um, talk a little bit about more about Egypt. I was what year was that? You said 2010.
2010, this one we went.
And do you see and you had that experience, right, of in the King's Chamber
Mhm.
of experiencing yourself as or yourselves, right? As, um
As a
uh
luminous being, it was a reminder that we're all luminous beings. And it's about
exactly.
remembering who we really are.
I love that because I think, one of it seems to me one of the conditions of being embodied is that we forget, right? We forget our natural heritage and this process of waking up
Mhm.
to our divinity, to our awareness of our wholeness. I
Mhm.
love that you make that distinction that everything is moving toward wholeness.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's the path, right? That's the arc of the evolution. Uh,
Mhm.
that's natural, right?
Mhm.
It seems to
Mhm.
be kind of the natural movement of things.
But then in these very turbulent times, then it is a wild ride, as you said. But that almost always happens when there is this kind of dramatic shift.
Do you see, um, I'm thinking about the divine feminine, the sacred feminine,
Mhm.
and how so much of that is rising now.
Mhm.
Like you said, to balance out the, so how far we've gone into the masculine way of being. And do you see, um, I don't know, do you see any examples like in the larger kind of culture, the Western culture? What do you see evidence that the divine feminine is coming up?
I think there's lots of evidence. I mean, of that where more people are trusting their intuition, that there are more examples. I mean, anytime we see a disaster, and there certainly have been many of them around the world, we also see people coming together that who might not agree with each other in other kinds of ways, but come together to collaborate, to help each other. I mean, that's a sacred feminine kind of energy.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I also see it in terms of all of these many, many different groups that are coming together for peace, for to come together to pray, to come together to for harmony and peace and joy.
Mhm.
I didn't talk enough about play and fun either,
Important,
though.
right?
Because yes, it's part of the energy that we want to embrace and to be. And I truly believe that we cannot really feel true joy. We can be happy, but we can't really truly experience joy unless we are connected with our deepest essence of who we are, our high self. You can call it your soul, your high self, yourself with a capital S, however you want to call it. That if we are in alignment with that, in connection with that, with our spiritual essence, then we can feel joy. And we can feel joy and sorrow simultaneously.
Mhm. I think that part of that expansion is being able to hold the light
Yes.
and the dark and the joy and the sorrow and the pain and the ecstasy of spiritual experience.
One
Um,
one of the reasons I wanted to bring in the little snowy owl to remind about doing our shadow work, doing the work that is in, generally speaking, in the unconscious. But it's so important to bring that into the light, to be part of who we, to balance that, to the healing, the bringing together, joy and sorrow.
Mhm. I think I think it's really important to not because I know things are really they can be getting really ugly out there. We're seeing a lot of this. I'm hoping it's kind of the last gasp of, our the toxicity of our West of our culture, um, really trying to assert itself, and
Hmm.
and that belief in wanting to maintain separation, wanting to maintain competition and
Hmm.
power over and lack, things like that. So that and I think if we try to engage on that level, like, and
Hmm.
resist and protest and say, no, we don't want that. We burn ourselves out. But you mentioned moving into joy,
Hmm.
right? And joy, being in joy becomes a revolutionary act. And it's a revolutionary act um, in the vein of the divine feminine, right? It's not a masculine way to meet these crises. It's a very divine feminine way to be in our joy, to bring that in, right? To manifest it.
Do want to say that I was one of the people out there on the No Kings Day with a big poster. It
Mhm.
was one of the most joyful experiences I've been. It was so joyful because there was such collaboration, such an uplifting of spirit, such hope.
Exactly. I went to I wasn't at that one because I was in a shamanic workshop, but I was at the Women's March right after Trump's first inauguration, and there were, hundreds of thousands of women in DC,
Hmm.
also absolutely joyous,
Hmm.
music and dancing. And if someone, there was a woman who started getting sort of feeling faint, so someone had her sit down by a tree. Six women show up out of nowhere. Someone's got snacks, someone's got water, someone's got a blanket, just caretaking, caring for each other. It was
Hmm.
just a beautiful, it was a beautiful way of being, beautiful demonstration. Um, so I want to invite anyone, if you have questions, go ahead and type them in, or you can raise your hand. Um, so I don't want to, yes, I do. I was gonna say, I don't want to put you on the spot, um, about, um, maybe astrologically, or maybe just in your intuition. Um, how do you see the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 10 years? How do you see it going?
Well, again, I have to say that some of this depends on what we contribute to the world. I mean, in terms of joy and peace and harmony. I mean, that we do have a choice on what we're doing with this. I I believe that we're in very turbulent times and that we haven't exactly seen some of the worst of it yet.
Mm.
But what gives me great hope is that because of, well, even because of astrologically, but otherwise, that we know that this consciousness is changing. And when it becomes at a certain point, then things really do change. It's not like we everything will be peace and light and love forevermore, and that there still won't be difficulty and challenges. But I do believe that people are rising up around the world.
I think that's really important to note, and that so much is happening, so much of this is happening um, not in the mainstream. You don't see it in the mainstream, right? Because
Right, right. But I do believe within 5 years, we're going to be in a very, very different place. Very different. Some radical things are going to be changing next year.
um, and that's good. I think it's good ultimately. But like birth, uh it can be difficult, right?
Mhm, mhm,
One of the things you mentioned is that you're in a lot of groups. You meet with a lot of groups, and I do too. And probably everyone who's listening to this has
mhm,
groups. Most of mine are women's groups, but um, and we often remind ourselves that just the groups of 8 to 20,
mhm,
right? We're on Zoom most of the time. Sometimes we're together, but a lot of it is Zoom. We're meeting in the ethers, and there are just millions of people who are doing the same thing,
mhm,
right? And
mhm,
they're creating, um, I think, what Barbara Marx Hubbard used to call islands of coherence
mhm,
in a chaotic system. Right. And as we do every time we meet, every time we get together, every time we meditate together, every time we pray together, every time we just connect and support each other, that seeds the field.
mhm,
Truly believe that. Um, you mentioned in your book sacred geometry.
mhm.
Do you use sacred geometry in your practices in your daily life?
Probably not, uh, not me personally. I know lots of people who do,
Mhm.
but not so much for me.
Yeah. I know there's a couple people on here who are really
Mm,
um, really involved with that. And I love that there are so many avenues, right? There are so many avenues that we can use to um, to help shift the consciousness. If you're drawn
yes,
to science, if you're drawn toward quantum physics,
yes.
or bhakti yoga, devotion and prayer and all of that. You mentioned was it Mother Mira
Oh, yes. In the book, I'm
in the
yes.
book?
A
In the
visit to Goma. Hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's really wonderful that um, that whatever calls to us
Yes.
is what we should just follow, right? Because it's um,
This is all about coming back into the truth and the authenticity of who we are as individuals. And we're all part of this collective. But you're right that we all have different paths, all have different paths. Even when we mentioned, whether you're in prayer groups or meditation groups or whether you're out on the street or bringing food to homeless people, whatever it is. I mean, we're called to so many different kinds of ways to participate.
Mhm.
And what has authenticity for us as an individual?
Yeah. So I am not seeing any questions.
Okay.
I think um, I, a lot of times when we're speaking about this topic, I find for myself that I get kind of internally very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
There's a peacefulness about it whereby that I don't want to engage my left brain as much, but there's a field that's created, right? When
Mm-hmm.
we're that we're actively bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so there's a question in there. Um, please talk a little bit about the difference of the sacred feminine and the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in the book, we talk about that. To me, the divine feminine often is like those images of Kuan Yin or Mary or the Black Madonna or some of the ones that I showed on in the PowerPoints. That so those are like divine, they're representations of the divine that correlate with whatever culture they come from. And the sacred feminine to me is a much broader and bigger, that it's not about these specific deities, it's about the entire field of the feminine, sacred feminine energy that is rising. So that's what it means to me.
Um, someone mentioned that they had a comment, and I don't know if she wanted to um, say it out loud or type it. So we'll see. We'll see what she has to say. But yeah, and um, you talked in your book a lot about visiting sites about the Black Madonna
Mhm,
and feeling the energy of that.
mhm,
Um, the I think I know the temple that you were at with Sekhmet in Egypt.
mhm,
Um, I was there in 1994 and sorry, 1992, and I have a picture. I took a picture of this Sekhmet statue, and there was this streak of light that was through the photo. This is, before cell
mhm.
phone. On the printout, it was just this streak of light on it, and there was no light in that room, right? It was just a very dark temple, and I thought, oh, there's something there, and you can feel that presence.
Yes, absolutely. That's because it was a little dark space, and we have a picture of that little statue. She's not that big, actually, but it was so dark that I didn't think it would be a good PowerPoint.
Um, Annie wants to be unmuted. Okay, so I am going to. So if you just unmute yourself, is it Annie or Annie?
Honey,
Annie.
Annie.
yeah, hi. I just wanted to thank you for what you're bringing forth and also to just acknowledge that at this turbulent time of history, we have these capacities through the internet to spread so much wisdom and connectivity. And that feels so divine, just that we can bring this out at this time because of all of the things that are coming together technologically. And somehow it reminds me, I used to live in New York City, and I would come into Manhattan from Queens and look, there was a point on the subway where you could see the city. And I would just be amazed, and I still am, that everything still functions. That with all of the chaos there on the streets, there's some bigger force that holds us all together. Uh, but so that's what also, it does give me hope to know that we are touching minds and hearts so much more easily now than we ever could before in history.
Yeah,
Such a good
absolutely.
point, Ani, that that is part of this collective consciousness, I think. I mean, that the internet and all of the connectivity in that kind of way is part of this collective consciousness that allows so much of this. It allows it more awareness of it,
Yes.
I should say.
Exactly. It's like the technologies are coming forth to help us as well.
Mhm.
If you, I mean, you could look at it that way, that just there's just so much resource coming forward for us to be able to meet and connect and do what we're here to do. Uh, I love that. Thank you for bringing that up, Ani. It reminds me actually, so if anyone knows me, my family's really involved in theater. We love theater. And I love to watch people in the stage managers in the booth calling cues. You know, when the plays are going and the dance numbers are going and they're cueing the music and they're cueing the sets moving and there's somebody who's just um, managing the whole thing and calling the cues. And I think of that like there's some intelligence that's guiding this and making it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Lynn wants to know how to balance masculine and feminine.
That's an interesting question because I think um, it well, it probably depends on which one is dominant. Men and women all have masculine and feminine energies within them, and some much more of one than the other. Usually, male bodies have more masculine energy, but that isn't always true. But it's finding ways to, well, I can give a personal example. The I said that I had over accommodated, so that is really more out of balance on the feminine side. And so what I needed was more of that fierce energy coming in that doesn't look like exacto blades around my waist, but it's more about a yes is a yes, a no is a no. And so it's what we need personally to come into. For some people, with it's to bring in more of that ability to nurture, to unconditionally love, to have positive unconditional regard for everybody, to include. So it just depends on the person. There's what's needed most.
Hmm. Thank you. And Lynn says you mentioned Leslie Carmack. We should probably mention Leslie Carmack. Um, she was your co-author on this
She is
book.
my co-author.
Mhm.
She is my co-author. She has been my partner in this whole adventure ever since, well, even long before Egypt, but definitely, yes. Sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No,
Yes,
I want to acknowledge that because yeah, because the book also includes a lot of her personal
yes,
experiences as well, and we want to make sure that we honor her and
yes,
her contribution.
yes.
And does she live in the Midwest with you? Or I mean,
No, she lives in another state.
yeah, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna say I'm looking on YouTube to see if there are any questions. I don't see any. So is there anything, are you open to people contacting you?
Yes, definitely.
You
I
know,
also am an astrologer and I continue to do astrology readings for people.
oh, that's great. Do you
Mm.
have what is your contact information? I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. My
Maybe
email is 12 songs. That's 12 songs at 12 hyphen or dash songs.com.
um I hope I wrote that right. Um before we end up you mentioned or in your bio you lived for a while on a nature sanctuary and you had a it was a sound healing.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? That sounds amazing.
It was an amazing thing. We did that for 20 years, and the Peace Chamber came from a vision from Joseph Real, who's a Native American man. And he had a vision back in the early 1980s that there would be peace chambers around the world that are also, they were also designed to be sound chambers so that I like to think of them kind of like whatever happened in our peace chamber then was part of a grid, energetic grid around the world. So there were dances associated with this, many, many ceremonies, and it was a very joyful experience. So happy to share more about that.
I'm sure that it absolutely can, it contributed to the raising of consciousness in your local area and also on the planet.
Well, and part of the dances I did four, they're called sun moon dances.
Mhm.
And so those are 4 days without food or water. And every, Joseph always said, every step is a prayer for the earth,
Mm.
for the people. So yes, I hope that each one of those steps had something to do in each one of those ceremonies that we did. It was a blessing to be a part of that.
Cecilia wants to know about suggestions during meditation, how to focus on becoming aware of the changing energies.
One of the things that has been so important to me in recent times in meditation is really breathing in a, a higher consciousness. And it comes in different ways, I think, for different people. But my most recent one are just this feeling of being in the middle of this big golden globe. I mean, not globe, but just radiant golden energy and breathing that in and out. And so, again, we're all going to have our individual ways of experiencing that. But the more that I can tune into those higher vibrations and that higher radiance, the more that that then brings greater ease in the shifts. Because sometimes if we have that shadow part that I talked about earlier, and we have a lot of that, then with these enormous energies that are coming in, it's a little jarring to the body at times. And it just takes time to assimilate that. But more and more of just bringing in the joy, the peace, the harmony, the light, the love, and so many different ways to do that. A lot of it is through the heart.
Mhm.
So many, many different ways
Yeah.
to access that. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned that the changing energies, the rapidly changing energies can be a challenge for the
Mhm.
physical body, for
Mhm.
the 3D
Mhm.
body. Are there any modalities that you like that you use to help kind of ease discomfort or anything that arises?
Well, one of them is meditation, but I've been a yogini for 50 years. And so yoga, the breathing practice of with yoga, the movement, the body awareness has been essential for me.
Mhm. Right,
And,
as a way to be really fully embodied during the
mhm.
days. I think we can want to leave. I think we can want to kind of be out of our bodies, and a lot of times we're just kind of in our head or in our intellect or
Mhm.
traumas or whatever. And it's such a beautiful way of bringing that awareness back into physicality because we're
That's why I became a yogini, because I needed to learn how to live in the body.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
beautiful.
want to thank you again, Judy, for inviting me, and such appreciation and thanks to all of the people who were here today.
Yeah, thank you. So Ruth's email again is 12songs at 12-songs.com if you want to get in touch with her or get an astrological reading. And One more question. Sorry. The book is called Radiant Awakening, and on
Mhm,
the cover there's this beautiful image of a phoenix rising.
mhm.
Can you talk a little bit just about that phoenix imagery, and then we'll close.
Well, when Leslie and I were working, deciding what the title would be, the phoenix, that energy of the phoenix rising out of the ashes. You probably know the story of the phoenix, but in the myth, every 500 years she comes back to her nest and then comes into the nest, and the nest burns up and the old phoenix dies. And out of the ashes is born the new phoenix that rises out of that. So it's such a beautiful metaphor for birth, the death of the old and the rebirth of the new.
That's perfect, isn't it? It's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. And please thank Leslie for us, for her part in that
I will
book.
do that. I will do that.
And thank you everyone for joining us. And we will see you next time. And blessings on your journey, on our individual and collective journey.
Mhm.
Blessings.